I wanted to give you all the warning now. If you've heard about this, the perfect neighbor, and this is something that's going to vex your spirit, this is the time for you to log off. And I will be discussing and reviewing this, The Perfect Neighbor, which was shown on Netflix right after this. All right, all right, all right. So, as I said before the introduction, I'm going to be reviewing the Perfect Murder, which is a documentary that is being shown on Netflix. And if you're interested in it, go watch it. One of the things that I will just give my pros and I'll give my cons. One of the things that was interesting to me in the way that they shot this is that this documentary didn't have any reincarnated uh what do you call it, they didn't they there was no need to do it dramatize do dramatic reenactments. Couldn't get that out. There was no need to do those dramatic reenactments. I think that this style of this particular documentary, it was told through body cam. It was all footage from the body cam. So you saw the victim and you saw the perpetrator, and you saw them in their rarest form. There was no spicing it up to dramatize anything. Everything was showing through either body cam footage or police interview video. If you're not familiar with this story, this was a trial that happened last year. I didn't review it on my channel, but I did watch it, and so I will just give you the overview. Now, this is a documentary talking about the demise of, and I want to make sure I say her name correctly, Ajaki AJ Owens. She was a mother of four, and her killer is Susan Lawrence. Okay. AJ is a mother of four. She was a manager at the local. I put the wrong stuff up here, child. She was a manager at the local McDonald's, and she had four children. She had been divorced. And so she had her home. She was living in a lower middle class neighborhood. This lower class middle neighborhood was very close knit because these people were looking out for each other's children. The children were outside playing, just things that children and people do. You have a family, your children go outside to play. You go out, they go outside to play. You're out there, everybody's looking out. Even the adults are playing. The neighbors have mentioned that one of the things that they loved about AJ is that, like, she was like a football person and a football mom. One of the young men, he was afraid to try out, and she encouraged this young man to go try out for football. So everybody was pretty much close knit. Then Susan moves in, and Susan, by all means, is a very crotchety woman. She wants things to be her way. She's living in a neighborhood, and I mean, when you look at the body cam footage, there's just kids everywhere, and I mean everywhere, up and down the street. You have just several groups. You have them from what they look like, they range from like But the mothers will be out there for the kids that look like they were 4 and under. But then you have kids like 5 to 7 over here playing in a group. You had kids that looked like they were 9 to 12 playing in a group. Then you had like 13 teenagers and stuff playing in a group. And so either they were playing football, tossing the ball around, or playing basketball. The kids had one. They had a dog, and the little kids would be running around with the dog, and the little smaller kids will be with their parents and stuff like that, just doing all that little stuff. So you're talking about an incident that was captured on body cam from the end of 2021 to 2023 when the incident happened. 2023 when the incident. It was June 2023 when the incident happened. And so what would happen, what you would see on this body cam footage would be Susan Lawrence calling the police. And she would call the police. If the kids were outside playing, she'd call the police because in front of her, now her particular area where she lived, it was like called a quad. So like there would be two people on one side, two people on the back side, but the buildings would be connected. And then like the little grassy area in front would be her yard. Okay. The kids, she called the police because the kids were in her yard. She had said something out the way to the kids. The kids went and told their mom. Their mom went over there and was talking to them, telling them, if you got a problem with the children, and this is AJ, if you got a problem with my children, come to me, come talk to me. Don't scream and holler and talk to them or say anything about that. You come tell me, and I'll make sure that they are doing what they need to do. She doesn't want to do that. She's fussing and she's cussing. And, they got into it. And apparently she had a no trespassing sign on the floor, and she was Susan was laying or doing something with it that AJ got to it, and she just kind of threw it over her head, and she didn't pay attention. She just threw it over her head. Now Susan calls the police saying that she was assaulted. She said she threw it at me. And she says, I didn't throw it at her. I just threw it over my head. I didn't see where it landed, but I just threw it up like this. And the other neighbors were saying, no, she didn't hit her. It flew, it hit her, it landed in her area, but it didn't hit her. And she called the police. And then you hear Susan talking to the police at the body cam, talking about, these neighbors and these kids are loud and they don't keep their kids in the house. And I don't understand why they don't keep their kids in the house. I'm a perfect neighbor. I'm not making noise. I'm not doing anything. And I don't expect them to do that. That's all well and good. I mean, that's all well and good that you live by yourself. However, you moved into a neighborhood when you came and you looked at this home, this apartment, this duplex, whatever they call it down there in Florida. And this happened in Ocala, Florida. You moved into that home. You, if that neighborhood is true to how they were in that body cam footage at different times of the day, you moved into a neighborhood that there is families, and it's a close knit neighborhood, and there are a lot of families there. And so there are going to be children playing. So what inevitably happened, because it's like a big grassy area. So the little section that's in front of her door, that's her yard. So the kids were instructed not to go over there, not to be in her yard. And they've kept up that with the most part. They had some issues where like they were walking and playing with the dog, and the dog would get loose and get over into her yard. She would have a fit. She'd come outside and she'd cuss the kids, and then she called the police. And it was over and over and over and over. I counted by that body cam footage. Now they say that they have more footage, but I counted by that body cam footage that the police went out there at least 20 times. It looks like they went out there at least 20 times. And it was the same thing. Then she would make up stories. She had gotten to the point where she was just making up stories on the kids, thinking that they were going to get arrested. I think she thought that if she gave me Karen, and she gave me that if she told the police and she talked to the police, these people are out here and they're just making noise and doing all this stuff, and you all need to do something about it. She thought if she was going to call the police, because there are some people that believe, because historically you don't call the police on Black people because it never really works out for them. But this neighborhood was very close knit, and they weren't having that. And so she would have to battle other white women who were saying that she's off her rocker. Nobody is bothering her. She's the one that's bothering everybody else, because she's not only called the police on AJ, she's called the police on several other people out there in that neighborhood, saying that their children are bothering her. All the kids one time were across the street. Nobody was even playing in the little grassy knoll area. She called the police and said that uh, this child was trying to put his dog in her car. Right? She had a picture of him, and it happened to be AJ's son. He didn't have a dog with him. She was just making this story up. And then the kids were like, nobody was over there doing anything. We walked our dog in the area where we were allowed to walk our dog in, and he had picked the dog up and was bringing the dog home. And she was claiming that she was trying to put the dog in her truck because she had positioned her truck to be right in front of where her door is at. All well and good. So then you see things kind of escalate, kind of escalate. I mean, even to the point where men folk are upset with her. It was just a whole lot of stuff. The people who owned the grassy area which the kids were playing had said repeatedly and told the police, the kids can play here. We don't care about the kids playing here. It's an area where they can run and they can play. She has a problem because her front door faces that little grassy area, and she gets pissed off because they're playing. And she had a lot of weird behavior too. There was one incident where it was on body cam footage where she was trespassing in someone's area, and she messed around and got locked in the area, and she was ramming her truck against the gate until the guy had to call the police because he got her license number and everything. And then they had to go back over to her house. And, she's like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm in my nightgown. I got scared. They're telling her that she's the police. Now, when she calls and they knock on her door and say that they're the police, baby, she is ready to be able to say what she needed to say. But once that incident happened, she got in trouble, and the people wanted her to pay for the gate. Not sure if she paid for the gate or not, but that's not even the point. So then we get to the incident. Now, this documentary was going strictly on the body cam footage. But what we learned in trial as to what led up to all of this is that the kids were in the grassy area where they were supposed to be, and they were playing. And they were AJ's middle son had his iPad. And so he was outside with his iPad, and then they were doing some kind of play or something like that. So he puts his iPad down on the ground, and then he goes and play. Well, Susan comes out, starts cussing the kids out. She picks up the boy's iPad and she takes it back into her home. So the little boy asked for his iPad back, and she told him she wasn't giving him crap. So he goes home and he tells his mother, Mom, we were out there playing. She came and she took my iPad and she took it inside. So AJ went across the street. Now, this woman knew she had that boy's iPad. She goes across the street and she knocks on the door, asking her to come out and give her son her iPad. She knocked on the door to tell her to give her son the iPad. What Susan does, and according to what they said in court, Susan was standing like this is her front door. She was standing in her kitchen right here, which is probably 5, 6, 7, 8 feet from her front door. She takes her weapon and she shoots it through the front door. When she shoots the gun through the front door, it hits AJ in the chest. AJ has enough adrenaline to run to the uh, front side, because if she goes out of Susan's front door and then makes a right, then she'll be going directly to her home. And that's what she was trying to do until she collapsed. And Susan shot this woman, and her kids were standing right there. So AJ was at the door knocking. Her kids were standing, like some were standing a little bit back behind, and the other one was sitting right here. And they saw their mother having to run, and then she fell. And they called the ambulance, and it was like a series. It was like 20 or 30. It was like 7 or 8 people called the ambulance. Then she calls, oh my God, somebody was trying to break in. She was trying to hurt me. She was trying to kill me. I was so scared. I was so scared. She shot through the door. She never opened the door. She didn't do anything. She knew she had the iPad, but she went ahead and shot through that door. This woman was trying to recover the iPad for her child. And they go through that whole night. And I tell you, it was the saddest thing to see. It was sad to see a community hurt the way that they were hurt. because everybody was rallying around, giving AJ mouth to mouth. Everybody was rallying around trying to help. People were trying to console her son, and people were trying to console her oldest son because he was just distraught. He was distraught because he was like, I should have knocked on the door. It shouldn't have been me. I shouldn't have been my mom. He was distraught. The baby was distraught because he was like, maybe if I hadn't brought my iPad out, my mom would be alive. It was a whole lot of stuff. So again, they are working the scene. They take her to the hospital to get checked out. And they had old Susan. They had old Susan in the car. And while they had Susan in the car and everybody was trying to get the kids together, the police had to call the baby's father because they had to tell him that AJ didn't make it. And you talking about wailing from a community, they were wailing. Okay. So that's basically how we got here. And then we see the series of interviews for Susan. One of the things because I just have I have some criticism. Shout out to all of those beat cops that went back and forth in that community. You can tell that that community had a good relationship with the police that were working within the beat cops. They had a good relationship with that community. So shout out to them out there in Ocala. Shout out for that. I will say too, because this is more of a moratorium on the stand your ground law. Because what we learned at trial is that the day before, well, the week before, she was brandishing a gun. The day before this incident, she was reading up on the stand your ground law, and she was reading up on the part that said that she feared for her life. So that is why when she made that telephone call, she kept saying, I feared for my life. I feared for my life. She was coming into the house. She was banging so hard. She was about to knock the door off the hinges and all that other stuff. The people said she wasn't knocking that hard. All the people that were out there said she wasn't knocking that hard. She was knocking, telling her, come give me my son's iPad, give me my son's iPad. But she's standing at the door knocking and she shoots through the door. One of the things I think in the interrogation thing, they were handling her with kid gloves. I think that they were so busy treating her like an auntie. They weren't asking they weren't asking her the hard questions. Now, from all the eyewitnesses accounts and what the forensic people pulled together, they realized that the forensic evidence is what was what was making more sense than what she was saying. But because it was a stand your ground law and they had to investigate it, she was able to go back home. And you talking about folks pissed off that woman was able to come back home. And I think it was a couple of months before they sat down with her and they went over with the prosecution and said, listen, they say, listen, everything that's going on, it does not look like you were in fear for your life. Your door was closed. You were 5 to 7 feet away from the door. You had ample time to get to your telephone to call. You could have you had opportunities. She had several opportunities to do before what she did. So she goes to trial. Uh, at first she didn't even want to be arrested. She got real white woman. I'm not going. I'm not doing anything. And they were like, we can pick you up and take you out, or you can get up here and walk up. But you're being charged with manslaughter. She was charged, and she was convicted. This whole documentary was put together from them pulling information, doing a request for the Freedom Information Act, and they got all of this footage, and they were able to make this documentary. And like I said, it is a moratorium for Florida stand your ground law. And let me make this bigger so that we can all read this together. And I pulled this from the movie. It says stand your ground laws have been linked to an 8 to 11% increase in homicide rates, or roughly 700 additional deaths a year. Research has found huge racial disparities, with white Americans much more likely to find success with the self-defense claim, particularly when they kill Black folk. So I wanted to share that with you all today. And like I said, if it's something that I went into this already seeing the trial, so it was interesting for me to see the way everything's set up. But if you've not watched the trial, if you go in this with clean eyes, it will upset you and it will upset you dearly. So I definitely would caution you for that. Overall, I think I like the documentary because there was no fluff. It was straight footage. Straight footage. You knew exactly what happened via straight footage. Okay? All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, are you gonna go watch The Perfect Neighbor? If this stuff kind of bothers you, go ahead and skip it. I did the review for you. All right. And as always, people, bye bye.